Thank you all for joining us here today at the Appalachian Regional Commission Year 2024 funding session and discussion. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about how the Appalachian Regional Commission grant program works. So Southern Tier Central is the local development district that serves the Appalachian Regional Commission. We provide assistance with grant writing, some technical assistance, community engagement, training opportunities. We host evening classes, daytime classes. We do land use planning. There's certain housing studies that are going on now. And that's assistance that's in part supported by the Appalachian Regional Commission's goals to improve the capacity of local governments and nonprofits in Appalachia. The Appalachian Regional Commission covers a 13-state area. There's 420 counties in this region, and each state handles Appalachian Regional Commission their own way. New York State doesn't tell us what projects they'd like to fund. They let our regions decide what they'd like to fund and generate applications and require our applications to be competitive and win the top of the pile in order to be funded. So Appalachian Regional Commission is looking for grants that are strategic, impactful, collaborative, sustainable. These four items are where they are really heavily weighting the review process and the questions in the application. New York State particularly is really interested in collaboration, strategy, and impact. The question about sustainability weighs in, ARC weighs in that they don't want to start a program and then just have it die as soon as they start a funding round. They would like you to show that you thoroughly considered how the project is going to be funded in the future. Southern Tier Central provides assistance to the applicants. I cannot write this grant for you because I am a grant reviewer, but I can assist you in writing a grant that's going to meet all of my needs as a reviewer. And to write the grant so that the other reviewers on the committees that do the review or our board have a really great understanding of the program and helping you to write the grant application, helping you to sell this grant to the people who are going to be reading. We're the first point of contact for applicants in Chemung, Schuyler, and Steuben counties. Other counties in New York's Appalachian region are Southern Allegheny, Cattaraugus, and Chautauqua County are served by Southern Tier West. They have their own application process, their own deadlines. They have pre-applications, and that's going on right now. Southern Tier 8 serves the 8 counties to the east of us, and their application process is going on right now. Southern Tier Central's grant application process has been pushed back in a year so that your application due date is later, and then the time between your application due date and then a funding announcement is shorter. We also pushed back our due date into September so that you can apply for consolidated funding applications through New York State or any other federal funding source. There is also the IIJA federal funding program, which is funding a little bit more towards infrastructure, and those asks can be $100,000 standalone. So if you have a bigger construction project, we might push you more towards IIJA, but it's the same application forms. If you're going to be going after that money, you might as well start now, and then we'll talk about how it ranks and rates and how a larger project would fit in our plan for the IIJA money. So ARC has 5 general goals: economic opportunities, ready the workforce, fund critical infrastructure, utilize natural and cultural assets, and then develop leadership and community capacity for people of Appalachia. And every one of these goals is set around enhancing the health, well-being, education, and employment capacity of the people of Appalachia. So ARC is focused on several rough program areas. One is asset-based development. And this is planning, promotion, or utilization of existing assets. Like I don't think ARC had anything to do with it, but I think it is Gorge's promotions. That's an example of asset-based development, or Finger Lakes promotions, Crystal City type stuff, talking about our existing cultural assets, but also our physical assets. Like this portion of the southern tier has a really good highway system, and people travel from the northern tier of Pennsylvania up through our region. They utilize our shopping services and educational opportunities because we have the population, the services, and the transportation. ARC will fund community infrastructure, your basic water and sewer roadway projects. These projects require consultation with an engineer, and those engineers have been writing grants for years. They know how to utilize USDA funds, hopefully, and they should be able to assist with anybody who wants USDA as a basic agency. It's a whole nother application process, but it's worthwhile when you're applying for big dollars for big infrastructure projects. In this case, you're typically making the argument that we need additional water and sewer on that site in order for new jobs to be created or to maintain the jobs that are there that are at risk of loss. And ARC requires that there be at least one press release or news article where the employer is threatening to close for that to count as a risk of loss. We can't just all claim that there's a risk of losing businesses. And so you can talk about widening roads or adding turning lanes to increase traffic on sites. Do you have a question?
I do, and I'm sure it's not anything that I can set up our jurisdiction, but an example that I'm thinking is there's a manufacturing plant in Victor, New York, right now that is threatening to close because the railroad refuses to upkeep the rail line. And that rail line is vital to the supply chain for that manufacturing plant. Would that be something that, if it was in our area?
If it was in our area and the rail line was owned by a nonprofit or government. Yeah. So there are certain rail lines that are owned owned by nonprofits or other groups that are not businesses. If it's owned by a for-profit business, ARC cannot enrich that. So Southern Tier West they own their own rail. It's a thing that happens. And Steuben County has received several ARC awards to upgrade rails on Steuben County's rail lines. A lot of things are possible. Education and training is another ARC program area. It's a place I'd like to see more applications fit into our community. Other regions have done a lot of ARC training applications, and I think Southern Tier West and Southern Tier 8 have both done a CNA training with ARC funding. So it can be a very successful program. We just haven't had one out of our region. So I'd be excited to see it come forward this year. The really exciting thing about this education and training program area is that the New York State resources can be used as match for ARC applications. So Workforce New York office funding or CFA New York State funding can all be used as match for an ARC program, which really reduces the cost for the nonprofit, local government, school district, or whomever that's making the application. ARC would like to promote entrepreneurship. We haven't seen a significant amount of these applications coming out of our region, but everyone from our region is eligible to participate in, for example, the Appalachian Regional Entrepreneurship Academy. And there's just like 2 of those that happen over the summer. ARC promotes wise utilization of energy. ARC has for a long time talked about coal impacted communities, and there was some talk about clean energy, but we haven't utilized it like a NYSERDA. These programs, they can have an energy component, but it's not the same as energy efficiency. It's got to be some kind of new economic growth, new job creating element that's focused on energy. ARC would like to promote export and trade. ARC would like to promote health of the people of Appalachia. And we have seen very few of these applications. So a workforce application that focuses on health is going to benefit ARC according to 2 of their metrics, right? Some of the first MRI machines in our region were purchased in part with ARC funds, but those kind of grant applications haven't been coming in for quite a while. Yes, 50-50 match.
That's-
And again, you can match it with state money. So if New York's funding something in the health world, ARC can also fund, to expand the program beyond what New York State had intended. This health goal can cover purchasing equipment like an MRI, but it can also cover training individuals that might need assistance to become better doctors, nurses, or staff. And it can also include programs like getting pregnant women to have better control of their blood sugars, or keeping seniors moving so that they're less of a fall risk. And it can also include opioid addiction or other substance abuse disorders, which the other regional boards in the Binghamton area have received quite a lot of ARC funding for substance abuse disorder treatment. So Inspire is an ARC grant program that can be used to tackle substance abuse disorder and opioid addiction issues, and that could be utilized in our region. We can also utilize funding for pregnant women. We can use it for putting in new clinics or providing additional services to people in distressed communities. And ARC can also work with the programs already existing within the federal government to pay back loans for doctors and nurses who are going to serve our at-risk communities. Leadership and development and community capacity building is one of the final Appalachian Regional Commission program areas where we see a lot of applications out of our region. Training local government leaders on land use, zoning, State Environmental Quality Review Act, as well as leadership training, how to be a boss, how to manage employees. All those things could be covered under leadership development if you wanted to apply for that kind of training. It can also cover strategies and plans. So if you're aware that local organizations are continually facing these same issues and having these same leadership problems, you can apply for training money or planning money to help those organizations resolve their issues in a permanent way. ARC likes telecommunications and has contributed quite a lot to Southern Tier Network, which is really beneficial to our region. The Southern Tier Network went to ARC for 3 applications over many years, initially scoping the idea, more specific pre-construction planning and development of what their marketing strategies would be, until they were finally ready to go ahead and they move forward with construction of Southern Tier. We could have more applications of that type, or telemedicine, or increases of the fiber network out to any schools that are not yet served. The ARC funds can be used to promote tourism in the region. This money can be matched with New York State tourism money that you might apply for at the CFA. As you can see here on the map, there are distressed communities, transitional communities, and attainment communities spread throughout Appalachia. Everybody in white has to go with 50-50 Appalachian Regional Commission grant funding. So they bring in, for every $100 that they want out of ARC, they have to show that they have $100 of match or local cash or other grant funds. The people in red have more beneficial matching rates. Our communities have some distress census tracts highlighted here, and then you can find a link to it on the website. Basically, our urban areas and some of our rural areas. But these distress census tracts don't change the match ratio. It's just something nice to mention if your project's going to serve these individuals. And ARC likes to hear about opportunity zones. So these are the opportunity zones that occur within our region. And if your project's going to benefit these individuals, I'd like to hear about it. The application process is annual. The other LDDs in New York State they're already substantially underway with their process. Their applications are going to be complete shortly. Our applications aren't even due until September 14th, because I'd like you to utilize the CFA to the greatest extent possible. So you can write your CFA application, submit it in the end of July, and then have the whole month of August to revise that material and expand it to explain how ARC can utilize that CFA money as match, and then submit to me in September 14th. Then I review it, we send it to our committees, the committees rate and evaluate it, then they send it to the board, The board makes the final determinations about the scores for each of the projects and how those projects rank. So we will send a final list with our top project and then number 2, number 3 down the list to New York State. New York State reviews them as their own opinion. And New York State kind of builds a project list from those 3 LDDs in New York. And they get down to a funding line. We have approximately $450,000 in funds through the standard ARC program. And that's how we're able to determine where we think of whether a project will be funded. Here it is kind of visually. In the beginning, your organization or government is going to need to hire a grant writing consultant or an engineer. You're going to need to start getting those support letters, work on timing for board resolutions and signatures from your highest elected official for your executive. The final application is due to me in September. And I will review drafts if you send them to me more than 2 weeks before the deadline. Because my goal is to get to yes. I'm trying to bring in the maximum amount of money into our region as possible. And we can do that by having the strongest possible application. So once I have the final application from you on September 14th or after, I'll review it. I'll send it to my committee members for their review. The committee will have an opportunity to make suggestions, again, to strengthen the applications so that our applications rank better when compared to other applications from New York. The applicants will have a moment to make changes, and then it goes before the board for its final rank. I'll send it to New York State in October. New York State will review it sometime after the CFA award. Usually it happens in March, definitely by May. They send their approved project list, which is a subset of what they've received from all the 3 LDDs in New York, to ARC. ARC reviews and processes them, and that ARC usually has them between 4 and 8 weeks. And this whole thing will be done usually by summer of 2024. So it's quite a long timeline between now and actually getting money for the award in 2024. But it happens every year and the timeline stays basically the same. So if you foresee another big funding award in summer of 2024 or summer of 2025, you can back calculate the right date to start your ARC application if you intend to use that money as a match. ARC has to be last into the project. So if you are considering using CFA funds for this project, you're going to write your CFA, and because of our deadlines, have submitted your CFA before you submit your ARC application. So you'll write your number 1 item is CFA match from, and then you name the program, CERTA or Department of Labor or whatever. And then you'll say funding status, apply, the date you applied, and expected announcement, and then the date that you expect CFA awards to be made. Then, by the time, then you'll write ARC is next, and that funding is pending, because we don't know yet whether or not you received ARC funding. And then below that, your local sources of match. So did you have cash from your town? Yes, that's committed, you have a letter for it, you write the amount and the date. And then everything needs to be committed or pending. Only those things that you applied for and expect to receive before the ARC funding is awarded would be counted as pending, and you're going to want to put an award date, expected award date. But because the ARC timeline is so long, you can plan to apply for something. We've seen an application go in that says they have applied for this state funding source. They are applying now for ARC, and they intend to apply for another federal water quality improvement program on this date. And all of those things will shake out before the ARC is going to be awarded to this community. So they'll already be in hand in order for this project to go forward. So you should look over the application materials if you think you have a project in mind. Start working on match. Think about sustainability, because ARC wants these programs to continue well after they've been finished out their funding. Get in contact with the project partners, and if you are doing construction, you're going to need a basic agency. So the basic agency is someone to confirm that construction or excavation or installation of whatever it is actually happening. And ARC doesn't have this large enough staff to confirm that across all of the Appalachian region. So they have subcontracted this responsibility to USDA, HUD, Economic Development Administration, or sometimes Empire State Development. Here's a visual flow chart about how you can determine if you need a basic agency. If there is construction, you will need a basic agency. If there's no construction, you don't, and you can ignore this whole slide. If you're getting project funding from HUD, Empire State Development, USDA, or EDA, that's going to be your basic agency. And if you are not getting funding from any of those, then you default back to the USDA as the standard basic agency. And that means you'll have to go and apply, create a second USDA application in order to access USDA as a basic agency. Local governments, educational institutions, IDAs, EDAs, and nonprofits can apply for grants. And this is something that's possible, but we haven't seen it lately. Groups of businesses can come together and work underneath another organization, like a chamber of commerce or an educational institution, to provide training for their employees. But those businesses can't receive the award themselves. In theory, the business is identifying the needs that they have for employees, and the employees are benefiting by receiving the training. But there has to be another organization in between that works to uphold the collaboration of those businesses, but maintain that none of those businesses are being enriched unnecessarily. ARC will fund asset-based development, customized workforce skill training, regional health projects, child care projects, water and wastewater systems, road systems, telecommunications, leadership training, as well as planning and studies. Ineligible projects are basically continuation of ongoing programs or activities, replacements of budget cuts, as well as normal maintenance. So replacement of water and sewer lines that have just reached the end of their useful life, that won't be eligible under ARC, but expanding the size of that sewer or water main to better serve the community would be eligible under ARC. And ARC cannot fund a project to enrich a for-profit organization or one individual. So we can't give money to one person to make their house nicer. There are performance measures, and if you're considering an application, we can talk more specifically about which one of these outcomes is a good outcome for your project. There is match required, and the match is 50-50 match in our region. So if you want 50,000 of ARC cash, you need to bring 50,000 of some kind of in-kind to the project, and then that would be a total project of $100,000. New York State has increased the maximum grant award allowable to up to $500,000. That would use our entire annual allocation in a single project. So this, there's also the IIJA Infrastructure Act funding that is being pushed through ARC, and those projects can also go up to $500,000. So through the normal Appalachian Regional Information Program, we encourage you to select the project size and ARC request that's competitive. Because if you ask for $500,000 in the normal ARC program, you're going to bump every other applicant down. If you're the #1 applicant and you've asked for the entire pool of money, nobody else is going to get it. If you have developed a strong program and you think you can deliver a lot of outputs for $250,000, there'll still be room for other applicants to provide services in the community or do another big project. But we're going to ask you to size your own projects appropriately so that the committee can fairly allocate funds to all of the potentially great projects. But the IIJA money is really meant for construction of large projects up to $500,000. And we could anticipate possibly up to 3 awards per year of that large construction for $500,000. So it's a separate pool and it doesn't have the same funding line. Match can be cash, in kind, or both. New York State's CFA counts as match. The application is long, but the questions are not difficult. There's 16 pages of forms that need to be completed before you even get to the narrative, and the narrative ends up being 20 pages long. And then New York wants to see a lot of individual letters of support. So they want to see a letter of support from somebody on the Economic Development Council. They want to see letters from community that you're serving, from nonprofits that are your partners, as well as elected officials letters of support. And they like these letters of support to be unique.
That's what I was gonna add, you get some type of templates.
Well, you can use a template, right? The template would say, I blank of this organization blank likes the project, you put in the name of the project. We think it's a great application for the amount that you're asking from an ARC, and then here's the part that they have to do themselves. Because it fits in with our existing goal, and then they have to say which goal it fits. And then you can say, this project also fits ARC's goal, improving workforce development, and the state workforce development goals, and then you list that text. The project for their full support, and we'll be looking forward to the tool form or something. But they do need to have 1 or 2 sentences explaining why this program helps them meet their goals in the region. The application guidelines on the website, and if you have any questions about it, please call me. Formerly, there was a paper application process. Please do not submit any paper to me any longer. We are totally digital. Yeah. The table of contents can be quite difficult, but I can help if you have problems. We can also help if you have PDF problems. Applicants can come in and use our computers to try and merge all those separate forms into one usable document. Please include your letters of support and get a letter of support from any organization that you mentioned in the application. The budget estimates that you have in your SF-424s have to match the narrative budget and all the supporting documentation, so that if your partners say that they're going to match with $50,000 in kind, then you have to show that on the budget forms, and it has to show up in the narrative as well. The application is not complete without signatures on all relevant pages. So please don't make me have a heart attack the last night of the application because you guys couldn't get the signatures from your highest elected official or your executive directors. If you have any more questions about it, please give us a call or email. Sorry, Regional Information Grant.